London about to attend the Concrete Society Awards, and I'm going to be chatting to Claire Ackerman, the new Chief Executive of the Concrete Society. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome, it's good to be here.
So I just wondered, how did you get into the concrete industry in the first place?
So it was definitely by accident. I graduated from university and was keen to get marketing experience from a number of sectors. And I think the concrete industry was probably the fourth contract that I took. And it was a new organisation just looking for people with transferable skills and no sector experience at all. And that organisation was the Concrete Centre, and I was there for 2 decades.
Wow, so it must have worked out well.
It did work out well. They were really good people to work with, invested lots of time in just talking about how they were passionate about what they did, and that just really rubbed off.
See, now in your sort of new role here at the Concrete Society, what plans do you have?
So the Concrete Society is a membership organisation, so we need to reflect the changing needs of our members and our built environment. So for example, people now spend a lot more time thinking about whether a building should be reused rather than demolished. So I'm working with our technical committee to understand what role there is for the society. Is new guidance needed? Should we be talking to people and explaining kind of how to address this emerging or growing need within the industry?
So that sounds like you're sort of working on new initiatives as well then.
Yeah, so we're looking to try and see what we can do to help with the challenges for our members. So whether that's training, trying to retain people within the sector, trying to attract new people into the sector. But obviously there's a huge number of existing services that we provide, which we're just looking to kind of develop and refresh, really.
So I just wanted to talk to you now about the Concrete Society's regional branches, because I can see on LinkedIn and on the website that they're particularly active. So can you tell us a little bit more about those, and also what are the advantages to joining a regional network?
Yeah, so the regions are really at the kind of heart of the Concrete Society. They provide technical advice, they provide a network for you to, grow your own business or just really to have other people that you can bounce ideas off. And the key thing about joining a region really is just to understand who works locally to you, who might have advice that's useful to you. And it really has built a massive concrete community, which kind of underpins what the society is all about.
Yeah, because I see, like I said, from looking at LinkedIn, like there's so many kind of communities within that, and presumably that also gives the opportunity to network.
Yeah, so they do technical activities, business activities, but also some of the most popular ones are their social activities. But I think when you start talking about mental health and things like that within the construction sector, the fact that people who might often be working on their own, the fact that they've got a network of people there local to them in their region, I'm sure they do meet up to have a good time. But I think we can say that that's good for everyone's mental health.
Well, exactly, and that's like you said. And if somebody is working on their own and they get out to see other people and they can kind of share their concerns and help kind of work through stuff, I think, like you said, that is really important for mental health. But of course, mental health is just one of the issues that we're dealing with as a sector and as a whole at the minute. But I wanted to talk to you about net zero 2050. Obviously, we're all striving towards that, but what could we be doing as a sector, as an industry? What could we be doing to accelerate that?
So I think with net zero, obviously we need the cement sector to decarbonise, and national organisations as well as global organisations have got roadmaps that show how that's done, and they're working with governments to make sure that we've got the policy that enable that. But I think it's really important that the concrete supply chain doesn't just wait for the cement sector. Yeah. There's lots and lots of work that the concrete sector can be doing. I'm a member of the Green Construction Board Low Carbon Concrete Group, and that is a group of volunteers, but it's a group, again, that want to share best practice and share their experiences to make sure and try and accelerate that decarbonisation journey for concrete. And in my view, I think the thinking is being done. People know, and it's widely accepted, what we need to do. If you look at the low carbon concrete route map, or recently Bruce Martin of Expedition Engineering, he's authored a paper which has recently been published talking about that decarbonisation gap. And then you've got the ICE, Concrete Decarbonisation Accelerator. There's lots of initiatives that all agree first step, be as material efficient as possible. And second step, look at what concrete you're specifying. And the concrete standard, BS 8500, is, I think it must be a year ago now, changed to allow all these lower carbon concretes to be available. So the tricky bit now is changing behaviours, which probably is the trickiest part. But it's really reassuring. So tonight we're going to be at the Concrete Society Awards. There's lots of examples in that shortlist that show what they've done. So Everton Stadium is one. At Everton Stadium, they used BIM, and they literally went back and forth between the project team, trying to make those elements in that structure as materially efficient as possible. And because it was a precaster, they also were involved early on in the project, which meant they could look at the concrete mix design. And I think often the contractors, the concrete manufacturer, they're just too late in the project to actually have an influence. So I think, behaviour change is difficult, and project teams do need to be given the time to do that collaboration.
Yeah.
But it's all possible. And I just think, if you start looking at the whole life of our built environment, concrete has got to be the material you'll go for, because it can last so long. It can be adapted and reused so often. So for me, I think we just need to try and keep promoting, keep showcasing when it's being done right, and hopefully not doing it that way will just become a smaller and smaller part of the market as we move forward.
And it's interesting there, because you obviously mentioned Everton Stadium, and I know that on that project they took on a lot of local people as well, and kind of took them into a construction career, which was amazing to hear. And on that note, I just wanted to ask you about how you think that we could encourage more diversity into the industry, and what provisions companies could make for taking on apprentices.
I think for me, there's the diversity question is as much about kind of encouraging people into the sector, and it's difficult for lots of sectors to be attracting kind of younger people, more diverse people. And I think it's something that the Concrete Society can really help the sector with, whether that's training pathways to retain and develop people, or whether, again, it's creating groups that people can be part of. So our Northern Ireland region trailblazed and created our first young members group, and it's really, really popular. Although I don't quite meet the criteria, they have welcomed me in, just so that I can, again, understand more about what they kind of want and need to help support
it's about
them.
You listening, isn't it, to what they're looking for?
Exactly. And I think the more we can listen, the more we can support, the more we can give them a hand up, then hopefully when they reach the top, they'll give us a hand. But I also think it's just being sensitive to what people feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
A lot of construction industry events and networking events, they might be alcohol related. So why not try some dry events where people that maybe don't feel as confident or can feel a bit overwhelmed by a big group of people, you can have smaller events and things like that. So I think it's just trying to have a bit more of a range of activities to appeal to everybody.
I mean, that makes sense. I think lots of people want to go to lots of different types of things, and I think if you can pick and choose, because one size doesn't fit all, does it?
Definitely not. And talking to CITB, we've worked with them on kind of, again, training standards, and just making sure with the work we do with the University of Derby, again, just trying to make sure that we are all within the partnerships that we've got, planning for what the future needs of our staff and our teams and our sector are going to be.
So I wanted to talk to you now about the UK Concrete Show. What are your plans for that?
We're really looking forward to being part of UK Concrete Show in February. We are looking to discuss one of our new technical guides. So we've been working with I3P, which is Infrastructure Group, about the digital monitoring systems that are now used for fresh concrete. So what we're hoping to do is to come along as part of the seminar programme, and just, as part of the general trend for digitisation, talk about this kind of new technology and what this means for when you're looking at the properties of concrete.
That sounds really good. So people should be able to stop by and have a chat.
Yes, definitely. I look forward to seeing them.
And obviously we talk a lot about the practicalities of using concrete, particularly in architecture, which leads me on to asking you about what your favourite building is. I mean, obviously your favourite concrete building.
It has to be a concrete building. So the short answer is anything with a waffle slab. If you meet any of my colleagues, I actually got a T-shirt when I left my previous organisation which said I love waffle slabs on it.
That's quite dedication.
It is a dedication, and I think you're only normal if you do have a favourite concrete slab. But personally, my actual favourite building there is the soffits and concrete columns of the Queen Elizabeth Hall in the South Bank Centre. They have a lovely cafe, which I often use as a meeting point. According to my friends and family, I ruin the ambiance by explaining boardmark concrete to them, but definitely a beautiful bit of concrete.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you.